The girls are tired. Us females are frustrated. Women are reclaiming feminism. Modern day feminism no longer serves the modern day woman. Since when did feminism become about stripping away male and female characteristics and then mushing them back together into this new androgynous category? Why are inherently feminine traits like nurturing and empathy and agreeableness seen as bad, something that'll set you behind in life? But yet it's okay for you to lose your period due to chronic stress or have strained relationships with men because you're always trying to dominate. Why is being married to the job and submitting to your boss fine, but submitting to your husband not? How is this helping women? How much progress is too much? How did we go from fighting for the right to vote and own land and consent to now completely ignoring what it means to be a woman in the pursuit of acting like a man, convincing ourselves we can do everything a man can do, and completely rejecting the essence of what it is to be a woman? Most women today no longer resonate with the values that Western feminism preaches, and we're seeing the signs of it everywhere. Fifth wave feminism is coming. Let's take a trip down memory lane and unravel the history of Western feminism, shall we? So, first wave feminism took off in the late 19th century, where the goal was to stop viewing and treating women as less than. The right to an education, the right to vote, the right to work. I mean, you gotta remember, women were thrusted into the workplace out of necessity. The American Civil War and First World War saw all the men off to fight to the death. Now, who took over the economy during that time? The women. So they had to take on the role of not just taking care of the children and housekeeping, but also taking over the factories and all the jobs that men left. They had to become resourceful. I mean, how were they going to put food on the table in the middle of a war? And then the men came back home. Although, to be fair, there weren't many left to come back. But women were then expected to just go on with life as they had always known it. But nah, something was different. Women woke up to the fact that they had so much more to offer than just being the uneducated housewife. I mean, you best believe I'd be throwing hands if I was holding things down for so long, only to be told that I'm less than a man when the war ends. I'd be marching down the streets with those suffragettes loud and proud. And don't forget that the men came back with severe PTSD. The world was in a recession, recovering from the damages of the war. They didn't have access to the mental health services we have today, and they lived in a time where masculinity and emotions could not coexist. So you have all of this repressed trauma that they didn't know how to deal with, which came out how? Through heroin addiction and domestic abuse. So you have women who have just been exposed to the workforce for the first time, and they're dealing with the aftermath of their damaged husbands thanks to the war. Look, I don't believe that everything is toxic masculinity, but in those days, oof, it was running rampant. And women realized that was fucked up. They had to be reformed. And so our ancestors fought for the right to own land and opportunities to work, equal rights in general, and for domestic violence and rape to be seen as a criminal offense. And they succeeded. Women were granted the right to vote in the 1920s. Domestic violence and rape were also made illegal in the 20s. We're seeing women's universities show up in the late 1800s, and co-ed education continued into the 1900s. The second wave of feminism. It is the 1960s, and the focus has shifted to two main areas: education and sexual liberation. We're seeing women in offices for the first time. More and more ladies are enrolling in universities. And we see the invention of the revolutionary oral contraceptive pill. This changed everything. The birth control pill was a catalyst to this really radical idea at the time, which was that women could enjoy sex. And that sex was not for procreation alone. The age-old mentality of, oh, lie back and think of London, dear, was officially trumped. And the sexual revolution of the 60s no longer saw women who desire sex as taboo. More women were able to work and bring home a decent income because they weren't tied down to children anymore. But like most things, this was a double-edged sword. Because for the first time in human history, women didn't have to worry about who they slept with. And so, opening your legs up for creepy Barry down in accounting no longer made him your baby daddy, and you wouldn't be forced to shotgun marry him. And naturally, this also led to a massive shift in the dynamic between men and women in the sexual marketplace. Rates of single motherhood rose from 8% in the 1960s to 23% in 2020, as well as rates of STDs and abortions all skyrocketing since then. Did we know that the introduction of the OCP at that time would lead to such consequences? Possibly, but still, progress, right? The third and fourth wave in the late 90s until today is when things started to get a little bit out of hand. Look, to be fair, there were some great principles to come out of modern day feminism, such as moving away from this boys will be boys mentality and teaching boys how to be sexually disciplined, as well as listening to women and to stop gaslighting them about their sexual abuse. Women being considered for positions of leadership, women in business, women prioritizing a career without being shamed for it. But it stops there. Because while it's great to teach consent and for women to be in men's spaces, it went a little too far. I don't know at what point this happened, but the narrative shifted to things like women should free the nip because men can. We shouldn't shave or wear makeup because these are all devices of objectification that serve the men. And yet, funnily enough, sex work, promiscuity, wearing next to nothing, and twerking while your tongue's out to WAP is all empowering. So it's objectifying if the men do it, but if we choose to actively participate in it, we're reclaiming our sexuality. Another one, hustle culture. The rise of the boss babes. Rejecting the idea of a family, in fact, looking down upon it entirely in favor of a career. Women completely ignoring their physiology, which is literally wired to slow down for half of the month, so that we can prove to everyone and ourselves that we are perfectly capable of doing as much as a man. And if you do choose to have a family, thanks to second wave feminism, you now have 2 full-time jobs. Not only do you work as many hours as a man in the office, but you're also expected to fulfill all of the responsibilities of a 1950s Stepford wife. Oh yeah, and your man's probably gonna cheat on you because you're so exhausted you no longer take care of yourself the way you once used to, and so naturally he's lost attraction. And because you're frustrated that you don't get the recognition you deserve, you feel like your man can't fully provide for you, and there's a double standard there, there's even more of a strain on the relationship, and divorce is pretty damn imminent, which only leaves you doing the same thing. And the funny thing is, for a lot of people, being single and being married makes no real difference in terms of how much work you gotta do. So yeah, that's where we're at today. We have moved away from equality to making women masculine. How can you even call that feminism when everything in it is inherently anti-feminine? A woman shouldn't slow down and honor her body the week before her bleed, because no, that's a week where a man can get ahead and we're equal. We have to prove to everyone that we're not lazy and weak. A woman can lead and make decisions and raise her voice and put a man in his place, even if it means that the relationship becomes toxic and dysfunctional because the man feels disrespected. A woman can be a bitch at work because feminine qualities such as agreeableness, conscientiousness, and empathy are frowned upon. Feminine traits are bad. Periods are an inconvenience and have nothing to do with a woman's essence. Testosterone, on the other hand, oh, we must not play with it. That's a man's vitality right there. Women's hormones, on the other hand, make them crazy, so it's all right for us to put it on hold. Women can participate in sex just the way that men do, even though most of us know casual sex ain't even that enjoyable for most women. Having deep, intimate, and emotional sex with a single partner is not cool, or at least not something that a young woman should be doing. No, she's young, she has to experiment and explore her sexuality. Again, the feminine qualities of sex are bad. The desire to be chased, making a man wait, being treated like a prize, having a man learn her body and stick around and protect and provide. No, all of that is bad. Just have cheap, meaningless, orgasmless sex. The only person who benefits here is the man. And yet, this is what we call feminism? And whilst all of this being on birth control, despite the fact that it's one of the biggest health crises to happen to women today, it's still a better option than getting pregnant, right? having your hormones hijacked, being extremely nutrient deficient, even your pheromone signaling is compromised. Women on the pill choose partners that they're more genetically incompatible with. Women on the pill have 4 times less testosterone than natural women, which means that they're less aroused during sex, less likely to orgasm, and have smaller clitorises. Women on the pill are drier. And yet, we go through all of this just to have average sex, at best, with douchebags that we're incompatible with and create unnecessary soul ties and traumas that we bring into future relationships, all in the name of liberation and empowerment. It's so ironic that the oral contraceptive pill was created so that we could have more sex, and yet it's making sex like so much less pleasurable. Somewhere along the line, we were duped into going against our very own nature. And you know what? People are waking up to it. We are fed up. We're tired. And that's why you're seeing all of these trends online, like hashtag soft life, hashtag embracing my femininity, hashtag trad wife, hashtag celibate. Personally, I had a massive shift in the last 6 months, realizing that I had operated from my masculine energy for my entire life, to the point of complete burnout and exhaustion. What we're seeing is the beginning of 5th wave feminism, and I am so ready for it. So, what will 5th wave feminism usher in? Number 1, appreciating and embracing feminine traits. We are going to see more and more women coming out of their masculine and embracing their feminine energy. Why does that have to have such a negative connotation attached to it? I mean, we don't shame men for their inability to literally create and raise another human being. That's a fucking superpower that men cannot do. We don't shame men for their inability to multitask or for their lack of intuition, which single-handedly prevents so much shit from going down. Women are spiritual protectors, which is just as, if not more crucial than the physical protection that we get from men. Being softer, taking things slower, receiving instead of giving, and being more sensitive and agreeable and tapping into your real nature without any guilt necessary. Number 2, redefining how women work. Look, I don't think that the soft life is on the cards for most women, but we have to find the balance between trad wife and acting and working like men. Look, this whole Goggins mentality has to go. And in fact, I actually have a bit of a bone to pick with that man. Look, I get it. He's the archetype of discipline, and not to take away from his story and his character, I just don't think that women should look up to a man who can't even get dressed on his own because he's absolutely shattered his knees. I see so much hustle culture, grind, go, push no matter what, and yet women just don't have the capacity to handle that stress and bounce back as quickly as a man does because of the long-term repercussions. It's like aspiring to be a female bodybuilder. Sure, it's an amazing feat and it's super glamorized, but how many of those women are infertile for life? We don't talk about that. Purposely pulling back and working at 80% of your capacity keeps you in the game for longer, even if it means taking more days off. Don't guilt yourself into not taking that day off. So, should we try to be like Goggins? I don't know. Personally, I don't anymore. I spoke about how women should work in another video, which I will link down below. But I think we're going to see women taking charge over their schedules and working more in a cyclical fashion instead of a linear fashion to work alongside their menstrual cycles. We're going to see more women working from home so that they can be present and active mothers instead of being disconnected from their child 8 to 10 hours a day. We're going to see more women in business. Women conduct business so well. We bring so much to the table that men don't, especially with service-based businesses like coaching, which is what I do, as well as products. I mean, women are the biggest consumers of household and beauty products, which means that we would be really damn good at producing and selling them. I mean, there's a massive deficit in the economy. We need more natural, non-hormonal disrupting products. We have skills and passions that we can monetize, all whilst working from home, honoring our femininity, and not neglecting our families. Number 3, natural birth control options and improving female health. The girls are coming off the birth control. I can tell you, as a female health coach, the women are sick of the symptoms, the constant bleeds, the nutrient depletions, the emotional turbulence, the acne, the weight gain, the feeling out of body. Women are taking their health into their own hands after being failed by the medical system, which prescribes the pill for every problem and tells us that our symptoms are all in our head. We're going to see women taking a holistic approach to get healthier. You best believe the girlies are going to be drinking the filtered water. We're going to be eating red meat and quitting veganism. We're going to see women balancing their hormones after 10 years on the pill and regulating their overactive nervous systems after spending years living in their masculine. Women are going to be healing their traumas, taking things slower, quitting that stressful job, learning how to track their cycle naturally with the fertility awareness method. And an inevitable byproduct of doing these things means something very important. Number 5, women are going to be more sexually selective. Men ain't shit. I agree, let's talk about it. Men are pussies, they're bitching it. They ain't providers anymore, they're lazy, they're cheaters, they're fuckboys. 80% of them. Look, not all, I know amazing men in my life, but for most, we're dealing with a lot. But let's not put all the blame on the men, shall we? For this very important reason. Women are the gatekeepers of society. Jordan Peterson actually spoke about this. He spoke about how women dictate who gets to reproduce and who doesn't. If we want men to get in line, we just have to stop giving them what they want and make them work harder. The harder you are to get, the more a man has to work for you. And the more likely he is to stick around and respect you and want to marry you. If you are sick of attracting shitty men, stop letting them toot and boot. Look, if you think about it evolutionarily, if a man can't get laid, he is going to work a lot harder on himself to get laid, and naturally he's going to treat women better. And the history of humanity proves this theory. Sexual traumas, STDs, abortions, women being overworked because the dad's not in the picture, a lot of these cases would be solved if we were more selective with who we slept with. Not all, I 100% agree, but a lot of cases, this is true. And look, I know I'll get hate for saying this, but casual sex has destroyed the nuclear family, and women are copping the brunt of that. Casual sex has made men emotionally unavailable and non-committal. It has made women distrusting and forcing them to operate from their masculine. We need to stop fooling ourselves into thinking that casual sex is empowering when it isn't. Even if the sex is good, you're better off making him commit. And that's gonna come from making him wait and making him chase you. The best thing that a woman can do in this 5th wave is to have high standards and stick to them. Even if it means that you're out of action for a while, you know what? I'm seeing a lot of trends online of women embracing celibacy after being hurt so many times from exploring her options and experimenting, and the results have been pretty positive. If we want men to get in line, we have the power to control that. I mean, dude, Eve literally doomed all of humanity by getting Adam to eat from the apple, even though he was well aware of the consequences. There's this quote from My Big Fat Greek Wedding, which is perfect to explain this. The men are the head of the house, but the women are the neck, and the neck can control the direction that the head goes. Number 5, a return to traditional values, but with a modern twist. We know that women without kids feel very unfulfilled and lonely, especially as they hit 40 and 50 years old. We also know that men without a hard life path, without a challenge, become depressed. We also know that men who are addicted to porn are severely sexually dysfunctional and unhappy. We're seeing the effects of modern day feminism and easy access to sex before our very eyes. And what goes up must come down. 5th wave feminism is going to see society re-embrace traditional gender roles because they work. I don't think we're ever going to go back to the traditional 1950s housewife. I know I wouldn't want that because women have so much more to provide than child rearing alone. But 5th wave feminism will recognize there are some things that women just do better than men and vice versa. I think women will still work and men will still contribute to the household, but it's not going to be 50-50 in the sense where women pay 50% of the bills and men do 50% of the chores. I think it's going to be 50-50 in the sense of equal contributions in different areas, leaning on our different strengths. And if it hasn't already, the 5th wave will debunk the myth that gender roles are social constructs, because they're not. We observe the same masculine-feminine roles across all societies, from the dawn of humanity to that Amazonian tribe that's never seen an iPhone to 99% of animal species. And please don't bring up seahorses. I am so ready for this new era where femininity is celebrated and not suppressed, where we recognize the differences between the two sexes and create an environment where both can thrive, where women are healthy and fulfilled in all areas of life instead of being stuffed into this masculine template of living. So if you're ready to get behind this new wave, then share this message around, especially with the so-called blue-haired radical feminists who might just need to hear another perspective. And if you want to learn more about how to optimize your life, own your womanhood, and thrive in your cycle, everything from how you eat to how you exercise and how you work, then stay tuned for the next video. Ciao.